if you are planning a trip, and this applies to any time of year, definitely, but I feel like the destination is where I want to splurge. I don't necessarily care about how I get there as long as I get there on time. So I will cram myself into the tiniest seat ever, although I do prefer if it has a window.
Yeah, I totally agree with this. I see flights as a means to an end. People fly business and first class. You're literally paying like 3-4 times. And of course, if you've got that level of wealth, then
yeah, good for you.
Good for you. Yeah, enjoy that.
Keep it up.
For the rest of us, I personally think just get your economy seat, get on the plane, and we'll spend the money at the other end.
Welcome to Checks and Balances. This is Jess and Makayla back with another episode of the Takeover. Today we're talking a bit about what to save on and what to splurge on.
Yes,
this
over summer. Practical tips, 5 money saving hacks for the summer season is the focus of this episode. We're going to go through a bunch of things you're probably going to spend some money on over the summer holidays and decide whether it's something we would recommend saving on or splurging on. And I would think it's fair to say in this relationship,
I'm the spender.
You're the spender.
I was going to say I spend so much money in the summer.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, on some of these things?
Probably. Most likely. Yeah.
Most likely. Okay. Well, this is going to be interesting. Yeah. I'm definitely the saver. I'm like much tighter with my money.
We're very opposite.
Yeah. Which is good. Good for everyone else. Okay. So the two factors that we are taking into consideration here, deciding whether to save or splurge, is how often do you use it and how does it need to perform? Frequency of use and what does the quality need to be?
Right. Like if you're only going to use it one time, it probably doesn't need to be the most amazing quality.
Yeah.
But maybe not fall apart after like one use.
Yeah. If it's only going to be for the summer, do we need to splurge on it or not? So should we kick off with the big ticket items?
Kick it off.
So we'll start with the flights. Some people will be flying off over summer, right? So is that something that we save or we splurge on?
I don't know. I feel like I am going to go with save, because if you are planning a trip, and this applies to any time of year, definitely, but I feel like the destination is where I want to splurge. I don't necessarily care about how I get there as long as I get there on time. So I will cram myself into the tiniest seat ever, although I do prefer if it has a window.
Yeah, I totally agree with this. I see flights as a means to an end. People fly business and first class. You're literally paying like 3-4 times. And of course, if you've got that level of wealth, then
good for you.
Good for you. Yeah, enjoy that.
Keep it up.
For the rest of us, I personally think just get your economy seat, get on the plane, and we'll spend the money at the other end.
That being said, though, there's so many budget airlines. We won't name any, but sometimes if you get the really cheap ticket, you don't get things like checked bags, and people don't realize the extra fees that get tacked onto the back of the cheap ticket.
Yeah, that's true.
If you're going to go really, really saving, check the T's and C's.
Yeah, for sure. Have you ever flown first?
I've never flown first class, but I flew business class once, and it was on a really short flight from Vancouver to Montreal.
Yeah.
And my dad paid for it. Thanks, Dad.
Nice. Thanks.
And it was so nice. They gave you champagne, and I had all this room, and you have this cubby kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was legit. But
do you always think about that now, though? Every time you fly, you're like, I want to go back.
Especially a long flight. But there's no way that's in the budget.
One thing I think, we used a Sky Couch. They're only within New Zealand at the moment, I believe. But we used it coming back from the UK. And because that's a pretty long stint. I think it was a 13-hour or something flight. We can do that because Blade and I are both quite short individuals. Right. So we can both lie fully down on the Sky Couch.
Do you actually lie on the...
Oh, yeah. So
I've never seen someone do the Sky Couch. What is it?
Oh, yeah. So
Tell me
it's this
about
thing.
it.
It's this this is kind of off topic, but there's this extension to your seat. So it basically turns you get the 3 seats for a start, and then it turns it into a platform bed thing.
Oh.
And you get blankets and pillows and stuff. So Blade and I could effectively have a double bed for a period of time.
Do you feel weird laying in a double bed with everyone around you sitting normally?
I did think this as well, but it's a section of Sky Couches. So everyone around you is a Sky Couch as well. So you don't feel like
I'm just imagining there's all these people crammed into their seats, and you're like, good night, everyone.
I know. No, it wasn't like that. And it's actually quite cheap compared to if you're thinking the main reason you want a first class ticket is to lie down.
Yeah.
A Sky Couch is quite cheap in comparison. So
probably good for families too.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to our accommodation. Save or splurge?
I'm going to go splurge 100%.
Are
I
you?
never skimp on accommodation. Like,
Wow.
I want it to be clean. I want it to be well located, a
Yeah.
view. Yeah,
Okay, you want all the things.
I
I
want the
think
accoutrements.
yeah, yeah. I'm a little bit mixed with this, and I think it depends on where I am. Sometimes it's a splurge, especially if you're going to be spending like a bit of time at the accommodation, and part of your reason for going away is relaxing and just getting out and
Yeah.
about. Whereas if I'm going to a location where I want to be there for the location, for instance, I don't know, the thing that comes to mind is that when I did a trip of Jordan, like you're going to see Petra, you're going to do all like the Dead Sea and all of those
Yeah.
activities. So actually you don't spend much time at the room, and all we wanted was something clean and
Yeah.
handy, basically.
Clean is definitely.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But
I
we
did
didn't need the
once actually
fancy.
leave a hotel because it was too dirty.
It was that bad. I don't think I've ever done that, and it has been pretty dire
And when
at
I went
times.
down to the front desk and I said, can we get a refund because the room is not very clean? The hotel owner like wasn't even phased. It was like he
Yeah.
knew that it was gross and he was like, yeah, fair enough.
He just takes his gamble
He was
every time. He's
yeah.
like, yeah, they're going to stay
Yep,
here.
I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, so a little bit of a mixed bag there. I think save sometimes. You think splurge.
Yeah. What about all-inclusive resorts though? Have you ever been to one of those?
I have tried them, and they're pretty big over in Europe. Like a lot of Brits love an all-inclusive holiday. That's how they spend their time. I think the one, and you can get some really crappy ones, and you can get some okay ones. They're quite a mixed bag, but most of the time, honestly, like when we travel, we do it kind of better. And instead of having all of your meals and stuff in one place, part of why I want to go there is to try the different food and try different restaurants and all that sort of thing. So it just depends on how you travel.
I did it once and it was, I think, cost-wise, it was efficient because all your meals are included, your drinks are included.
Yeah.
But you're right, like I felt like then I was obligated to eat and drink and do everything in the resort. So then we didn't leave that much.
Yeah.
And we didn't do like local stuff.
If you go out for dinner one night, you feel like you've wasted money.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a weird one. Okay, so moving on to our activities. So over New Year's and summer in general, it's there's lots on like festivals and things like that, activities over summer. Are we saving or are we splurging?
I don't know. I'm kind of a mixed bag on this because I didn't grow up in New Zealand, and I think a lot of people here maybe like take for granted how fun and beautiful it is naturally. So I'm like a big just like beach hike, maybe some off-grid camping kind of person.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll do a festival, but I don't know. I feel like there's so much you can do that doesn't cost you any money.
Yeah, especially in New Zealand. Like we've got it. Yeah,
you do
very
summer
lucky.
right.
Yeah. And what I do is, because I follow my algorithm, I've trained it. So my algorithm brings up lots of, nature, like walks and beaches and things like that. And when I see them on Instagram, I pin them on my Google Maps.
Oh.
And then, so my whole Google Maps is just full of these little pins of things that I've seen online and been like, oh, that looks cool. And then you can kind of look at that and be like, oh, I'm in this area. I'm going to head to that beach because I've seen it before or whatever. So hot tip for activities. But what about things like festivals?
I feel like festivals have gotten so expensive. And maybe it's just because now I'm like 30. And I'm not festivals aren't really like on my radar anymore.
Yeah.
I tried to go to one last New Year's and it was just like way too overstimulating, and I went home before midnight.
We're showing our age. Yeah.
But I don't know, like some of the tickets, so we've listed out here a few prices. So like R&V 3-day VIP passes, $600, and that doesn't include your camping.
When you're in your 20s though, like $400 for 3 days of that to me is money well spent. I think part of this as well is that it's all about the company you keep. So who are you actually going with? Are you going to have a good time?
Yes.
The other thing that I always bear in mind, because like we've got friends coming over from Australia this summer, and I'm like going to spend a little bit more than I usually would because I'm going to be doing those activities with people that aren't normally here. We'll take them and do a few cool things that we wouldn't normally do. So it's about who you're with. And I also think, especially when you're going to bucket list places, just spend the money because are you ever gonna
It's
be
like,
back
it's
there?
the memories, right?
Yeah. Like bucket list activities. Are you ever going to be back in that place again?
Mm-hmm.
Like, for some reason, Jordan keeps coming to mind, but like Petra, you just spend the money, you go and you just do it.
You worry about it later.
Yeah.
Not financial advice. No.
I know, yeah, not financial advice, but or like if you go to Turkey, you pay to do the hot air balloons, $300-$400. Am I going to come back to this part of Turkey? No, you just spend the money.
Before we move on, we talk all the time about planning and growing our wealth, but protecting that wealth is just as important. That's why having the right insurance in place can help when life goes unexpectedly.
And that's why this episode is brought to you by Partners Life, a New Zealand operated award-winning insurance provider with over 300,000 Kiwis insured and 89% of claims paid.
Partners Life understand that having some insurance is better than having no insurance. They have flexible and personalized solutions for any budget or situation.
Check out their website in our show notes below.
What about the smaller ticket items? Like, these are all big things, but what about like the little bits and bobs you need through the summer?
Mm-hmm. First one, sunblock. Pretty key.
Okay, I actually am going to say it's a save. And sorry, I have a bit of a lisp right now because I had some dental work done. But I think that's a save, and not because you need to buy like crappy sunscreen, but because there's so many brands of sunscreen that are actually quite cheap and really good. And I'm talking about Korean skincare.
Really? Are they built for the New Zealand sun though?
They're really strong because in Korea, they're really conscious about sun exposure. And you can get really, really good sunscreens for like $10-$15. I think that's cheap.
There's a little hack. Yeah, I think with sunblock, we've just got to make sure that you're not buying cheap, crappy sunblock that's not going to actually protect you. And I know there's been some brands who have actually claimed a certain level of SPF that they haven't in reality been meeting.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important one, especially with the levels of skin cancer we have in New Zealand. The ozone layer is repairing itself, yay, but we still have really high. Did you know that?
Yeah, I knew about the hole, but I didn't know it was repairing itself.
Yeah,
so
it's repairing itself. Which
go
is
New Zealand.
Yay. But we still do have really high levels of sun exposure here, so making sure that you're getting a quality sunblock, I think
there's
is
also
still key.
like there's a few kind of like bougier sunscreens out there that are more expensive that people be like, oh, this is the best one. Like there's a one from La Roche-Posay that people are always like, oh, this is so good, and I think it's like $30 a bottle or something.
Yeah.
But you can find something that acts exactly the same for half the price.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Okay. What about togs? What do you call togs in Canada?
I never heard the word togs until I moved
It's
here.
a weird one.
It's such a weird word because someone showed me that commercial that's like the undies togs thing.
Well done.
So funny. No, we just call it like, I don't know, your swimsuit.
Swimsuit. Okay, so swimsuits or togs. What are we saving or splurging on these?
Okay, well, I feel like that's going to depend, again, back to the very beginning, frequency of use and doesn't need to perform. So, like, if you're one of those people that swims the whole length of Takapuna Beach every morning in the summer, you probably need a good swimsuit. But if you're just lounging on the beach, like, I'm sure you can get one from Kmart.
Yeah. And I think for women, we've also got to factor in how much support do we need?
Yes.
It's going to be an important factor for you. I can do the cheap togs. Take from that what you will. But I can get like a very cheap pair of togs that last me just one summer. Not Makayla. So, for me, that's a save.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a splurge for me. Just because, like, I'm going to say I need it to perform.
We'll leave that there. Okay, cool.
Okay, what about sunglasses?
Oh, for me, I'm such a cheapskate. I do have one pair of polarized sunglasses, which I've tried to pick like quite classic style so it doesn't go out of fashion.
Yeah.
But I do buy cheaper ones where I'm like, oh, that's kind of a fun frame, but I'm probably going to get sick of it by next year.
I feel, actually, I don't know. Try and land somewhere in the middle. You know? Like, splurge doesn't mean go buy like Chanel sunglasses because they're just the same cheap crap as any other sunglass, in my opinion. But I think splurge would be, like you said, polarized, or like if you do a lot of water sports or even snow sports and you need like good quality sunglasses, that's where I would splurge. But otherwise, I feel like you can get a good pair of sunglasses for like the $100 range.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think, for me, that's my splurge.
Oh, really?
We have different ideas.
Like, you don't need to spend $600 on sunglasses.
But I think the point here is that, again, coming back to sun protection and things like that in New Zealand, we need to have the decent, barrier between you and the sun. And also for wrinkles. I don't want to be squinting.
No crow's feet.
I don't want my crow's feet to come through.
I do think it's wild. Some of the like designer sunglasses though are so expensive and they're not polarized. And there's no like special. You're literally just paying for the same like I was gonna say Walmart sunglasses, but you're just paying for the brand. There's no zhuzh.
Yeah, for me, I think that's a bit of a save then. And then moving on to our footwear over summer. So this can be quite important for people that are hiking, spending a lot of time at the beach, etc. Are we saving or are we splurging?
Originally I said splurge, but I think it's a save.
Really? Why?
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, caveat if you're going hiking or something, then you probably need some good shoes. But if it's just sandals or like a daily shoe, I don't think you need to splurge. Although I have noticed that like the Havaiana sandal has made a big comeback in fashion lately, which is kind of random. That's like a cheap shoe, I think.
As in the jandals?
Yeah, just like a normal.
That's awesome because I kept mine from like 15 years ago. So I'll just whip them back out.
They're having their comeback.
And they are really good. Like I've had mine for so long. They've been in the back of the wardrobe, but they've lasted for years. And I think for me, this is actually probably a splurge because with footwear, I'm just hammering it. Like I don't have lots of pairs of shoes. So I'm wearing it every day, every weekend, and I'm better off to spend a little bit more and get a bit more life out of it.
I guess even if it's a jandal, like if you go the real cheap route, have you ever been that person that's like walking, you're out and about at a market or something, and then your sandal literally like pops apart?
Embarrassing.
And now you're like, you have only one shoe?
Yeah, not good. Yeah. So yeah, for me, I think it's a little bit of a splurge. And we're not talking like designer splurge, but just a good pair of shoes. And especially if you're doing lots of walking and things like that, you want something that's comfortable and durable.
Okay, what about, this is like, I feel a quintessential Kiwi summer item. We have barbecue on the list. A reliable barbecue.
We got our barbecue for free from a neighbor. So
is it good?
I don't feel
I'm picturing like a rusted like.
No, and it's perfectly fine. They'd used it once. It's a gas one, but I know a lot of men that will see this as a splurge item. So I think we should address that, brands like Weber, Traeger is another one that I know of. And
Pit Boss.
What's that
barbecues. One? Pit Boss.
Pit Boss. Okay, there's plenty out there. And all the men in my life, my dad comes to mind, my husband, some other male friends, they've all splurged on this. They all have their very fancy barbecue and they freaking love it. So I'm going to say that's a splurge for them.
Yeah, I like, if it was just me on my own, I would never give a barbecue a second thought. But my husband absolutely splurged on his barbecue. It's like a smoker / barbecue. And to be fair, he does use it all the time. But one day he just came home with it.
He did not.
He did. He just like popped out. He was like, I'm just going to go to Mitre 10. I was like, okay, cool.
Just casual.
And then he texted me and he goes, oh, just so you know, my mate's coming around to help me unload the car. I was like, what do you mean? Curious. What are you unloading? And then they show up and they've got this absolutely massive box with a trolley. They had to trolley it around the back of the house. And it was like the most gigantic smoker barbecue thing I've ever
feel
seen.
like this should have been in the big ticket items, actually.
Yeah, it was, and like it was not cheap. And I think he got it on sale. But it has proved its worth.
You're eating the food, so we benefit from it somehow. But yeah, I think for a lot of people that is the splurge, but you just got to make sure you take care of it, because I do see a lot of these very fancy barbecues on Facebook Marketplace all rusted, and I know there's ways around that. So if you're going to splurge on it, make sure you're ready to take care of it.
I also feel like a lot of these smaller items we went through, you can buy these things in the off season to use next summer, because of course you don't really start thinking about buying these things until you get to the start of summer.
Like everyone.
But that's when everything is at its most expensive. So if you're buying like your swimwear and your footwear and that kind of stuff, sunglasses in winter, you can probably get like a way better deal.
Awesome. So that should hopefully give you a couple of tips for summer, where to save, where to splurge, a couple of things just to think about before you go ahead and spend the money. And I think we'll wrap that up there.
I would also love to know, what are your spend and saves?
Mm.
Because that would be interesting to know. So
yeah,
leave a
we've obviously
comment.
got different opinions. So yeah, I'd love to hear yours. Thank you so much for listening today, and thank you to Partners Life for sponsoring the episode. Don't forget to like, review, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.